Good morning. I'm going to take you on a little walk with me, and I just want to share with you about our experience over the past several days leading up to Tim's death and what's taken place beyond. I kind of feel like I'm walking on a cloud. Sometimes it feels really surreal, like it didn't happen, but I think the greater part of me feels just this incredible sense of peacefulness, and like when he let go, I let go. And this feels like a really tender, intimate experience, probably one of the most tender and intimate experiences that a human being can have and go through, next to birth. And it feels very much like birth. There's a moment where you just, that transition, and then all of a sudden this being that is coming arrives, and you get to greet him or her for the first time, and all the preparation can't really prepare you for that experience in that moment. Death feels that way for me now, having gone through it. I've gone through it with my grandma and with my dad. But with Tim, it's like all of the conversations that we had leading up to it just allowed us to really think it through and prepare. And I'm taking you on a walk that's this path behind our home through the pine trees, and I've walked this path many, many times with Tim. So it feels really perfect to be back here. He knew he wanted to die at home, and he knew he wanted to be with his family. And when he transitioned on Thursday night, I really thought I was going to leave him, or he was going to leave us when I went to go pick up my daughter from school. So I prayed hard and talked to him firmly as I was leaving and said, there are people that want to say goodbye to you, and I'm going to get your daughter, and you have to promise me that you'll be here when I get back. And he, in his very kind of beginning to be checked out state, he nodded yes. So I went and got Anna and brought her home, and on Friday morning we transitioned him to hospice, and the hospice team arrived. It took them probably about 3 hours for everything to get set up and the equipment to arrive, and then we just settled in, and family started to come. His family, extended family, came and just spent some time with him and said their goodbyes, and there were lots of tears shed. And people brought food over, and then the next day all of his friends came, and I can't tell you what that was like, to just be there receiving people, knowing that this was very likely the last time they would see him, the last time that I would see him with all of his friends and see them with him. And but the energy in the room, at first it was a little bit guarded, and people weren't really sure how to be, and then the stories just started flowing, and it really felt like the celebrations of life that I've been to, where you just get to start sharing funny stories about a person during their life and beautiful memories. I got to sit there and just listen to story after story of Tim in his grade school days and high school days and college days, and his parents were there, and we all just got to enjoy in these stories with him. And there were a couple of times where they were searching for some of the missing details, and Tim, like, shouted from his bed. He got the details right and was able to muster enough energy to put it out there, and then told them they had to finish the story because he couldn't talk anymore. And then when everyone left, there were tender moments just with the girls and I, and tender moments between us where it was just he and I got to just say the things that I wanted to say and just really be present to him and feel his readiness. And there were a couple of times during the whole past 3 days last 3 days where he just looked at me and he said, "I'm ready." And there were a few visitors still on the way, so I told him, so-and-so is coming and so-and-so is coming, so please, if you can hang on for them, they would love to say goodbye to you. And he nodded yes. So on Sunday, my so one of the things, this just feels a little bit hard to share, but several years ago when we were going through a huge time of change in our marriage, I gave him my wedding rings and he took his off as well, and we put him in a box, and we said that at some point when the time was right, we would commit ourselves to one another and we would put our rings back on, but that we needed to really it just needed to be right, and we wanted our girls to be with us, we wanted our families to be present when that time came. And so on New Year's Day, I got down on one knee and I gave him the box and opened it, and I said, I'm ready, and would you marry me again? And he said yes, and we decided that we would do it on our upcoming anniversary this summer. And just talked about like what that might look like, and that it was just, we wanted friends and family around, and so that was the one thing that felt incomplete for me in Tim's final days. And I kept looking at the box because we have a little shrine that was kind of sitting overlooking where his bed was, and on the shrine I had put the box, and it had been there since January 1st. And so I went and took the box and took out the rings in the wee hours of the morning because his respirations had climbed really steadily, and I just felt like this is something that's still in my heart, and I will feel incomplete if he goes, and we haven't done this. So I took the rings out and put them on our fingers and just held his hand, and his eyes opened and he looked at me, and he tried to pick his hand up a little bit but he had lost control of his body at that point. And then the next day, Sunday, I just invited a friend of mine to do a few readings and just bless our connection and really celebrate what we've come through. And then in my heart, it just felt like we had arrived at the point that I wanted to arrive at, to feel ready to renew our vows. And it's interesting because at a time of death, you think of like, you know, there's a severing and a letting go and a separation, but it really felt right. It felt like a consecration of our love for each other, and within that love is freedom, and freedom to set one another free. And I felt like renewing our vows and gave me the capacity to set him free completely. I don't know really how to describe that better than that, but that's how it feels to me. And it felt so beautiful to have his family there. They weren't all there, but his parents were there, and a couple of his brothers, our daughters, were there. The readings felt perfect, and it just felt like completion. And after that, I felt like I could release him. And on Sunday evening, my sister had come, and we were just, sitting down, watching a movie, eating popcorn, and enjoying one another's company. He had a bath, and I got to spend some time with him, just putting some oils on his hands and feet, and just loving him up. And while he lay there, my sister, or my daughter, noticed that his respirations had increased. And so I looked over at him, and I got up and went and counted, and they had increased to 30. And I just stood with him. And I stood, and I gave him some extra morphine just to make sure that he wasn't distressed. And I watched him have 3 kind of, they weren't struggling breaths, but they were just like the breath had changed 3 times, and then he exhaled, and it was it. He left it. And I feel like if I could have seen where he exited his body, where his spirit just kind of broke free, it was right through his mouth. And it just was gentle and graceful. And an incredible, incredible thing to witness the life force leave. So, like I said, this feels incredibly tender and intimate and hard to share, but also I feel like we've been so open through this whole journey, and he felt like if it could be useful to anyone, he wanted it to be shared. And we both felt like that, so that's why I'm sharing it. So the hours and the days that have followed have been I didn't know what I would feel. I thought I'd feel just this huge loss and absence, but I feel him all around. I don't feel like he's gone, I feel like his spirit expanded the moment that he left his body. And I could feel like, oh, when we're in our bodies, we're confined to this earthly dimension, and we can extend our energy beyond that. But there's still this sense of confinement. And the moment he exited, and in the time that's followed, I feel like, oh, he's expanded. Like, he's not trapped anymore. That's kind of incredible. It's very incredible. And what do you do after death? I mean, we haven't, like, we've had good cries. We've been close with one another, but we've also, like, just started, I woke up on Monday morning, and my sister and I had family that had come to bring breakfast and groceries, and then we got straight around to like clipping chicken wings because our chickens kept flying the coop. Hi, girls. And we knew Tim that would make him happy, just to have his birds tended to. And then I went inside the house, and my sister-in-law had pulled everything out of the pantry, and we're cleaning that out and organizing it. My sister had already cleaned out the refrigerator, and I think it had been, at least 2 years since it had been cleaned out that way. And it felt so cathartic and good. Yesterday they came to pick up his bed and the wheelchair and tray table and things that they had brought. And it just felt really like I just cleaned. Cleaned the whole space, and it felt really bittersweet to see the bed leave. But it also felt really good to just clean. So I don't know where we go from here. I feel like we're just taking it one day and one moment at a time. And I just want you to know that death can be beautiful. And I think when we can embrace the beauty of the end, then we can live without restraint. We can live without being afraid, because I think a lot of our lives, we protect ourselves from death, and we, want to put all the securities in place to avoid it at all costs. And what I saw in Tim near the end, and for both of us, was just a total acceptance of the end of this life in this body, in this family, in all of the roles that he's filled. And we got to focus on completion and being at peace with what is. And it didn't mean that we just stopped everything. We really took time to be present, took time to make the most of each moment. Probably watched more TV than I've ever watched in my entire life, because that was one of the few things Tim could do. So there are parts of me that feel happy and ready to move on to doing other things that I've not done in a while. I haven't been out on this trail and walked around in a while. I haven't really done much on our property, partly because it's been winter, but partly because my energy has been tied up in caring for him and kind of completely consumed by cancer and all things related to cancer and treatment. And so I feel hopefulness that, you know, my life can expand as well. And I look forward to seeing what that looks like. And as far as grief goes, I think I'll save that for another post. But what I'm feeling about grief is that when it comes like a wave. And it kind of builds and builds and builds. And then as long as I can stay present to it or give the girls space to be present to it and just feel it, then it crashes and then it's calm again. And so it feels fine. It feels like it's healthy and good and washing and cleansing. And one of Tim's favorite things to do is listen to the birds. So I feel really like he's really present here in this post. His energy's all around here, and I think he'd be very agreeable to me sharing what I just shared. All right. Thank you so much for just being with us. Thanks for following this journey. I really hope that our experience has helped you in some way. I'll continue to post in the aftermath of this because I know our journey of healing is really, it's been ongoing, but there's a new phase of it beginning. So, all right. Just wishing you lots of peace, and thank you again.